Okay, hey everybody. This is one of the most common questions I get on my YouTube channel. This is how do I create a timer for my game? So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. So let me talk real quick about the code you see on the screen. So this is based on the pause code that I did the other day. Actually, just check my channel, it's in there somewhere, about how to pause a game. So here's what we have so far. So I'm using the Genie editor. You can see it up here. I'm hitting function and F5. Okay, so I just have a real simple character going around the screen. If I push the P key, it pauses. Push P, it unpauses. So P, P, that is it. So what we want to do is we want to add a timer to our game. And there's a few things we got to do to make that happen. But it's not complicated. So let me just walk you through that. And I think you'll find it pretty straightforward. So just again, structure of this program. Up here is basically where we set everything up. We create our functions, we create our objects, etc., etc. And then here is where the game actually runs. This is the main game loop. And you can see, as I mentioned just now, I'm using a pause function to control the game. So if the game is not paused, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is where I'll be shooting things and doing this and that. And this is when I'm paused, I just want to keep the screen updated and just wait until I'm not paused anymore. So if you're not sure how to do the pause, watch that video. So the reason I say that is it's going to determine where we put some of this code. And to keep time, we're going to use something called the, go figure, time module. Okay, and the time module, it just gives you a lot of really cool things you can do with time. So what I have to do is to create first, I'm going to create my time limit. Okay, and just for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to say 5 seconds. And just before I start this while true loop, I need to set my current start time. Okay, and to do that, I'm going to use the time module time method. And I'm going to go ahead and print that out and show you what that looks like. Start time. And then it's going to look a little weird, and I'll explain what it is and why it is that way. Okay, so you can see here, that is the current time on my computer. Okay, so this is actually the number of seconds since the beginning of the Unix epoch. And that's what they call it, I don't know why. But to find that time, and this is consistent across Unix-based machines. This is a Mac, so it has a Unix underpinnings. Linux has, of course, Unix underpinnings. Don't know about Windows, but I'm kind of curious that one myself, but I assume it's roughly the same. So I'm going to go into Python 3 here and just kind of show you. I'm going to import time, and I'm going to say time.gm time 0, and that's going to tell us actually from when it's counting. So you can see it says here 1970, so 50 years ago. The first month, so January, the first day, January 1st. 0 hour, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. I don't know what these ones mean. Sorry. So that is when it's counting from. So that is the number of seconds. And you can see that number, if I run that again, that number is down into, actually goes down the milli, quadrilla, whatever seconds that is. Okay, it goes down quite in detail. So you can get very, very detailed. Now in our case, we don't need that level of detail. We just need seconds. Okay, so if I know the start time, I can find the current time, and I just use a little subtraction, and that will tell me the information I need. So inside my not paused section here, my little conditional, I'm going to go ahead and put my timer code. So what I need to find is the elapsed time. So how long has the game been running since I set the start time? So to do that, I'm going to say elapsed time equals, I need the current time, which is time.time, minus the start time. Okay, let's go ahead and print that and see what that looks like. Oops. Don't know why I always do that. Okay, so I'm going to run it and move that over a little bit, and you can see 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds. And you notice you have the decimal places here as well. So you can see that it is pretty accurate. Okay, so that's also useful information because we're going to need that as well. Now, if you don't want to print out that whole decimal part, I can just go ahead and, for printing purposes, cast this, which means convert, into an integer. So let's go ahead and run that, see what that looks like. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, you might be thinking, hey, I don't want to see counting up, I want to count down. So to do that, what you would just do is you would just do time, oops, wrong spot. You would say print time limit minus the time that's been elapsed. And that will give us a count down. Okay, so let's take a look at that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. And of course it keeps going because we haven't coded that part yet. Okay, so now, obviously we don't want that to go on forever. So if our elapsed time is greater than our time limit, we can say print, game over, and we'll just exit the game. We won't bother restarting in this simple example. Okay, so I'm going to save that, and I'm going to run that and see what that looks like. Function F5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, game over, which is pretty darn cool. Okay, so again, now if I wanted to make this 1 minute, I would make that 60. If I wanted 2 minutes, make it 120. You might have in your game a case where you can get a power up and then the time limit increases. So you can extend the time limit of the game. If you have levels, all you have to do is change the start time to the current time as soon as you restart. So there's a lot of flexibility here. Now, if you're thinking ahead, you might realize, well, what if you pause the game? What's going to happen? And so let's take a look at that option. So I'm going to hit P. So notice it's paused, nothing's going on here. And I still have 3 seconds left. So I'm going to hit P and see what happens. Okay, so you can see how, of course, the time is still going on in the background. Time is still passing. So to fix that, it's pretty straightforward. Inside of our else statement here, this is what happens when the game is paused. We basically need to reset the start time. So what we got to do is say start time equals the current time minus the elapsed time. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So if the game has been running for 5 seconds since the original start time, then when we hit pause, we just change the start time to the current time minus what's already passed. So when we break out of this part of the code and get back to actually running it, the start time's changed to, say, in that case, 5 seconds before. Okay, so let's go ahead and test that. Keep on it. 5, 4, 3, and I'm going to hit pause. And so in our last example, it kept running and it got down to like negative something or other. So let's hit P, and you can see it's still at 2, now at 1, and then 0, game over. So that, my friends, is how you make a timer function for your game. It's pretty straightforward. Again, choose a time limit. You need to find the start time, calculate the elapsed time, and again, you can print it, not print it, however you want to display it on the screen. Check if your elapsed time is greater than your time limit, and then end the game. If you are using a pause method, you need to recalibrate the start time to the current time minus the elapsed time. Real quick, some people might ask, well, why didn't you just do equals the time limit? And let me go ahead and run that real quick and see if that works. And you can see how it keeps going. And the reason is, if you recall, this time is actually like 1.6825 seconds. So the elapsed time will almost certainly never be exactly 5. It'll end up being like 5.02925, for example. Okay, so that's why instead of using equals, we use greater than. That way it's guaranteed to catch it as soon as it goes over that time limit. So yeah, so if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I do check them, I do keep track of them. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And yeah, so thanks for watching, and keep on coding, and yeah, have a great day. Take care.